I never know if we're going with Adonai or AD. It seems like people want to call it
Yeah.
both, but we'll go AD Mitchell. As I said, wide receiver out of Texas, 6'4", 196 pounds. Not the most productive in terms of raw, box score production, but incredibly flashy route runner. Does some stuff in terms of his route running to get open that not a lot of people in the league can do. Is a really smooth athlete, and his kind of short area quickness, that agility is super elite. Are you a believer of AD, Wyatt?
It's so hard to say. AD is such like a mercurial prospect because film people love what he can do on the field, but then they like his route running, like you mentioned. But then they also say, but it seems like he's not running full speed a lot of the time. And then we get that like quote from him that says like, most of the time I'm running 70% of the speed because I want to stay on the field the entire time. And like that's why like no one expected the combine testing to happen the way it did for him, because you don't see that on field when you watch him, because apparently he's not playing at full speed. Like, but that's like, so you have to like figure out what that means to you. Like, is this okay that he doesn't play full speed? Will that be a problem for coaches? I don't know. And then like you said, the metrics, the stats there, like they're good, they're not great. Like the yards per run, especially like the 1.56 in 2022, the 1.72 in 2023, like that's just not good. Like you want that for a tight end, maybe, like so you have to try and like parse through all this stuff, and it ends up making me feel like, I don't know, like I'm gonna want some exposure to AD Mitchell, just because like I do believe like basically everyone in the film community all agrees like the guy is fantastic. He doesn't do much after the catch, but like everything else looks really good. So like you can put some context even to the stats, right? Like Quinn Ewers is not a good QB. He's playing with Xavier Worthy, so like you have to put some context to all of it, all that stuff. I know it just kind of leaves me in a place where I'm gonna have some exposure. I try to always have exposure to almost everybody, at least like one, just the if I'm wrong share, I like to call it. AD Mitchell, I'm going to be more than that, but it wouldn't surprise me if I end up being lower in my rookie draft rankings than most people. I'm assuming he's going to get drafted in the first round of the NFL draft now. I'm assuming that that's going to make him end of the first round of Superflex rookie drafts. And I'm also like, I just tweeted out this today. Like, I'm basically like having placeholders at the end of my rookie draft first round for like whatever running backs get drafted by the Chargers and the Cowboys in the second round. So like it's going to be a conversation between those players and AD Mitchell, and like still Troy Franklin. I still like. I think he's going to be still being in that. So it's tough. I wouldn't say like I'm an AD Mitchell truther for sure. Like I'm just kind of like, I don't know, maybe with the wave going for him.
Yeah, I think for me, he's honestly one of the hardest evaluations in this entire draft class, because the talent is absolutely there. I mean, this is a guy that, produced, okay, not incredible numbers, but produced numbers at two impressive programs when you think he's played at Georgia and Texas. I think, yes, Quinn Ewers isn't phenomenal, but you've also got to look at the surrounding talent in Texas. Xavier Worthy, potentially going to be a first-round pick in this year's draft. Obviously, AD Mitchell. Jordan Whittington, I think, could maybe sneak into day two as an intriguing kind of later round wide receiver, running back hybrid. Jatavian Sanders is probably going to be a day two tight end. Obviously, Bijan Robinson, Roshan Johnson. You've then got Jonathan Brooks. Like, there is a hell of a lot of talent in this Texas offense, and you can kind of explain some of the stats away with that. But I come back to, I think if you watch some highlights of him, you can see the odd play where it's like, this guy is phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if his route running is, I can't make up my mind whether he's a really good route runner or he's an average route runner that does it with flash, and he does these like massively over exaggerated head fakes that look great on film, but I don't know how much they're actually allowing him to get open and how much it's just to kind of look good. And so I'm sort of like, yeah, there's some stuff there. There's definitely talent there. He's got good size. I think he could potentially play the X at the next level. But I come back to targets per route run. he never saw above 20%. As you said, yards per route run never got over 1.75. Like, the numbers just aren't there. And I think for me, I'm always going to lean on that production. And so I'm probably going to be lower than consensus on AD Mitchell. Yes, I'll probably have a share or two, like you said, but there's just I'm left wanting more, and I have some serious questions. And I think there's other prospects in this range of the draft where he's going to be going that I have fewer questions on. So I'm
Right.
probably going to allow someone else to draft him. And I think he's the kind of guy that we could see with this back end of the first round, by the way it's looking up, there's going to be 4 or 5 receivers that go there. And I feel like he's one, because he's got that size and speed combination, he's going to get overdrafted. And I feel like in the Dynasty community, this happens every year, where we get these big-bodied outside receivers that get overdrafted because everybody's chasing that kind of prototypical X, when actually some incredible production in a slightly smaller frame just sort of gets left sitting there for a little bit longer.
Yeah, and when you look at that end of the first round, I think it's a pretty flat tier that extends into the second round. And if someone wants to stake their claim on AD Mitchell, and I have one of those picks, and they want to come up for it, I'll gladly move back a few, and let them make their player take, and I'll just make the game theory take and say, like, I think this tier is all about the same. I'll take whatever in the back end of this tier.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm fascinated. I keep hearing in the NFL draft, people talk about, this is so loaded. I hear Mike Renner's got 25 wide receivers in his top 100 that he's just released. We could see 7 wide receivers drafted on day 1. We could see 20 receivers drafted on day 1 and day 2. And I'm kind of like, everybody's penciling all these wide receivers for the back end of the first. And I'm wondering, if you're sitting there, if you're Buffalo and you're like, yeah, we could really do with a wide receiver, but actually this wide receiver class is loaded. Let's go and get a tackle or
Right.
a corner, knowing that you can still get a really good receiver in the second round. So I do wonder if that could force this sort of second, third tier of wide receivers to fall in the draft, and we don't end up getting 7 first rounders as everyone seems to think we're going to.
That is really interesting. It will be fun to see, like, the game of chicken between NFL franchises on draft night, if they do play that game. Like, if they do see it the same way that all of us on the outside see it, and say, like, this is a really deep class, they might not value them in the first round as much.
Absolutely. But if you are here, if you are watching, we are so close to 1,750 subscribers. If you're 10 minutes into the video and you've not yet hit subscribe, go and do it now. There is so much more content. We've got so many more rookie profiles coming. And of course, best ball season is just around the corner.